Hey everybody, welcome to another Stargirl review on Only Stupid Answers. We are talking about Season 1, Episode 12, Stars and Stripe. And once again, joining me is the wonderful Yale Teagle. Hello,
Oh,
Yale.
hello. I'm so happy to be here.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
For the kids at home, where do they know you from? Where can they find you?
You probably know me from AfterBuzz, but they are on hiatus this summer. So
Why?
you can, I
What
think
possible reason could
COVID,
there be?
I think COVID, which I think is totally reasonable. I appreciate that they're keeping everyone safe.
Agreed.
Um, but you can find me talking about Winona Earp.
Ooh.
Um, not on AfterBuzz, unfortunately, because they're closed, but we aren't going to leave the fans hanging. So check out that. And also a new show on that hashtag show called Streaming Wars, where we talk about all the streaming stuff.
I have questions for you about Winona Earp, but we don't have time for that. We have to
Okay.
dive. We have to dive into Stargirl. Like I said, this is season 1, episode 12, and the synopsis reads: With the ISA on their trail, Courtney, Pat, and the team regroup to figure out their next steps. Meanwhile, Rick makes a breakthrough, and the team prepares for a showdown with the ISA. And this episode was directed by Toa Frazier and was written by Melissa Carter. This is the first part of what is essentially a 2-part finale. We finally get the whole team, the whole gang's together. But before we do that, the ISA has, because Brainwave has his memories back, they send Sportsmaster and Tigress to take out the Whitmore Dugan clan. And it was a pretty solid action scene to open up the episode with. Yo, what did you think about it?
I said it before. I love the action on this show. I think Tigress is my favorite person to watch fight
Yeah.
because she's so like kick-ass and acrobatic and like villainous. Like she doesn't care. She does not care. She wants you dead.
Yes.
And she's just gonna kill you. She doesn't care that you're a child. She doesn't care that you're a mom. She's evil. I
Yes.
love it.
It's crazy how the ISA, we've established 2 things with the ISA. One, they don't care about children. 2, they also don't care about their own team members. I think the ISA has done more damage to their own ranks than the good guys have at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
We're jumping ahead a little bit there, but I also like Tigress and Sportsmaster because I think of the villains, they straddle the line of being genuinely threatening while also being campy and fun in a really interesting way. Like there's a point when Sportsmaster's fighting Pat and he hits the bat on the ground and it bounces to his other hand and that was cool. I don't know I don't know what the physics of what just happened are, but it looked cool.
It really defined, like, made his name make sense. Like he's the person who knows how to hit a bat perfectly on the ground to bounce to the other hand.
And look really cool and threatening doing it. And I like that fight too because last episode we saw Pat deck Courtney's not so great father, and I think we've established that like Pat against a normal person would probably do a pretty good job holding his own. Against a supervillain like a very capable physical supervillain like Sportsmaster, he's okay. Like he can last as long as that guy's monologuing, he'll do all right. But I like that Pat's not suddenly like super proficient. Whereas on the flip side, where did Courtney learn to fight? We've talked about this in a couple episodes, but it's like she was a gymnast
and a boxer.
Did we establish that she's been doing boxing? We saw some comments last week that people were correcting us on that. And it's like, I don't remember them establishing that.
So the only time they establish it is when she's packing from LA in the pilot, she puts her gloves in a box.
I'll accept it. I'll take it.
It.
I'll accept
that was
it.
The moment.
But I do like, it was a little more dubious when she didn't have the staff because normally when she has the staff, it's like, okay, the staff is kind of doing the heavy lifting.
Yep.
You can kind of accept it more. And we kind of get more of that in this episode where I like the effort put into making the staff its own character. I like the choreography of like the staff catching Barbara, although like the way it caught her, it's like, it might have been better if she just hit the ground. I think you might have screwed up her back a little bit, but it all looked really cool.
I agree. I thought that it was going to catch her and like drag her out of the way, but no, left her there in that position.
Yeah, it also is. They've done a good job of like again making those villains look capable while still making it seem slightly believable that our heroes would be able to scrape by the skin of their teeth, and not get killed. And while we're on the topic and of course this fight ends with their 2 non-combatant characters saving the day. We got Barbara with the classic pot over the head to take out Tigress. And then Mike, Trey Romano, is how I like it. Every time he shows up on screen, I'm like, Trey Romano. He uses a drill on Sportsmaster, which is pretty brutal, but effective.
I loved that play, like that him playing with the drill tied into something. Because I was like, God, that is so annoying. And then he throws a fit, and I was like, you're acting like you're being stupid.
Yeah.
Don't throw a fit. And then it came into it, and I went, got it. I see why we did this.
So that's a good segue into what are your thoughts on Mike right now? Because as the show has progressed, he's become more grating as a character. Because on the one hand, you understand why he feels left out. But on the other hand, it's like we're dealing with other things, and especially when you've got a character, he's been complaining about being left out this whole time, and his dad is literally seconds away of revealing it to him, and he's still being a little pain in the butt. It was a little bit too much for me, and it's either we were talking about a little bit of this off air. It feels like maybe they're either setting him up to do like a last minute save, or he's going to do something really dumb. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I was fine with him being, because he was left out.
Yes.
Right. Like there was a weird thing going on with his new stepsister and his father, which like, thankfully this is not SVU. And oddly, no one questioned it, but whatever. So it was reasonable that he felt this way, but his dad said to him, I'm going to tell you. And then he still was like, well, everyone's leaving me out.
Yeah.
I'm going to shut your mouth and listen.
Yeah. Literally just be quiet for 10 seconds. All right.
Right.
And you'll be included on this. I am glad that the whole family is included on it now. And speaking of people being included, we do get to spend more time than we ever have with Principal Anaya Bowen, who is the fiddler, I think is what we just, and she talks to her awkward band geek of a son about murdering people, I guess, to assert yourself. And then she is promptly killed by, I thought, so she starts taunting Tigress and Sportsmaster. And I'm like, oh, this is how we're going to see what the fiddler's capable of. And it turns out she's not capable of anything really.
Yeah, I don't know what the point, like that, this has to, I assume that this is her son's origin story of becoming a villain now. Because otherwise, the hell was that?
What was the whole point? And again, that goes back to my point that like, so Icicle took out the magician and the magician's kid and the magician's wife. And now the Tigress and Sportsmaster have taken out Fiddler. It's like, wow, you guys are doing the JSA's work for them is what you're doing. So we finally get something I've been missing the past few episodes, which I thought were overall pretty solid, was that we've established the JSA, but we haven't really had a lot of time to have them interact with each other. And we get more of that this episode, specifically with Rick trying to solve the codex and the thing, which I like that the big mystery turns out the secret is where in the building the bad guys have been working out of this entire time in Blue Valley. Like, ooh, we should have just checked that building maybe. But we get a little chance with him in Shining Knight, which I think is his dynamic I think is a fun addition. And we get a little bit of him and Pat. And we get a little bit of time with Courtney and Mike. What did you think about all the stuff at the cabin?
I loved the stuff at the cabin. I was very excited about everyone being together, everyone being in the know. Like, I was so stoked. But just a minor thing, literally, I think it was Mike who was like, we're missing, or Courtney, somebody was like, we're missing school to go to this cabin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you kidnapped other people's children to do this as well, because there's no way Yolanda's parents approved this.
Yeah, you're right. Yolanda's a great example. And Beth's parents would be like, wait, our child hasn't bothered us in like a day. This is insane. Where is she? We're her only friends.
Yeah, so that I would have liked an explanation.
Yeah.
A quick, we snuck out, or they're all out of town, whatever.
We're on a mission trip.
Right.
I don't know what's happening. Yeah, I think you're right with the explanation, but I'm with you. I liked all the stuff at the cabin because it's just time with this teams, because it is, even though the show is called Stargirl, there is a team. And it is good time. It's good to see some of the team dynamic. And I think the show, with the team shows, you can always see the wheels kind of turning about, like, how do we give everybody a job? And in the final break-in, I guess, you've got Barbara and Beth doing the hacking stuff and Barbara's office, while the rest of the team sneaks into the base. And so they discover something interesting about Project New America, which we've been hearing about the whole time. And there have been hints dropped that maybe the goals, while the means are nefarious, the goals might not be quite what they appear to be. And so what we find out, I'm going to lay it out what I understand this as, and you let me know if I'm on track. So the big Cerebro, they basically put Mr. Mind, Brainwave, into the Cerebro. Right. And that's supposed to rewire everybody's brains. And that was built by Dragon King. And that sends a signal to satellites, which were programmed by Gambler, the Colonel. And it's brainwaves, brain patterns that will rewrite, at this point, because of his power boost, half of America to view the world the way they do. And but it's only fully formed adult brains, and 25% of them won't get on board and will probably die.
Yes.
So what we find out is that they see their like manifesto, and it's all like, let's stop global warming, and let's give healthcare to everybody, and let's do all these great things. And if that felt like, hey, you know what would be subversive is if it was like positive stuff. And they didn't really. I feel like a lot of super properties have been doing this recently. Like they just do like a fill in the blank of like current cultural conversations without really. It's like a Mad Libs of like what we're going through as a society. The last example of this was like Joker, where it's like, okay, all these people are protesting like Trump supporters, but they hate the rich, and they're against the guy that's our Trump stand. And it's like, so what are we talking about? What do we have to say about any of this stuff? And this reminded me a little bit of that. So it's like, what's the stance on the ISA then? Are we just, what are we, other than like, it's kind of complicated. What were your thoughts on like the big reveal of the ISA's goals?
I think that the question that was asked of, are we the good guys, was fair. That's a fair question. I also, just going back a little bit before that moment, like when Beth hacks in and everyone can hear her and she goes, how interesting that we can all hear each other, because that's not how it works down there. Yeah. Like obviously someone else was listening. And I think that was odd that she didn't put that together. But about we did establish that she is 15. So that's true. Yeah. That's true. Fair point. But the manifesto, it does not feel, that feels like a trick. That feels like they're going, this is what we're going to confuse you by telling you this is what we're going for. Because no one in the, right, like everyone in the team, in the Injustice Society, they're all like prominent people in their community. Yeah. And they're not doing anything to benefit their community. So instead of like activism or legislation, they're like, we're gonna mess with everyone's minds. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit about like in Infinity War and Endgame, Thanos is like, there's not enough resources, so I have to wipe out half the population. But if you spend any time looking at like global warming, it's like the billionaires on our planet with their money and resources could just fix it. They just could and still be billionaires. So maybe instead of wiping out half the population, you just need to convince Tony Stark to like stop flying around in $1 billion piece of armor and just fix things, just actually like benefit stuff. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to wipe out, you don't need to brain control people. Just your politicians and teachers, you could just do those things. You know what I mean? It feels, and we'll see. To be fair, we've only seen half the episode. Like you said, it might be a trick. It feels on the surface a little bit misguided. Because I would imagine there is a contingent of the audience that does not necessarily think those things are good. So the assumption, and by putting that in the purview of the bad guys, I think muddies the waters a little bit for the sake of what is essentially a rather cheap twist. And I don't think
beyond it being a twist, I don't think it effectively says anything about us and our society and what people think and believe. I think it almost would have been a more clever twist if Beth's in there and she's hacking away and she's like, he wants to do universal health care and stop global warming. And the whole JSA was like, ew, gross. What bad guys? We should stop them. Like, that would have been more subversive. Like, wait, hold, time out. Wait, have we been rooting for the bad guys all the time?
Yeah, I also think it's weird, especially because there's that whole conversation with Icicle and his parents about how Barbara would have been a good wife.
Yeah, and there's mad pseudo-Nazi vibes going on with them.
Yeah. So it's very odd.
Yeah, and again, to be fair, maybe in the finale we'll clear things up. But on the surface, it seems kind of like a shallow, cheap swerve. But moving on from that, I think in this where it ends up is they start the machine. They do the classic like Watchmen, like, oh, you think you have 30 minutes? It's actually started. The 30 minutes is when it takes complete control. And of course, Barbara, God bless Amy Smart, her expression when she was looking over here was one of the funniest fucking things I've ever seen. And Shining Knight and Pat are all, of course, brain controlled, and it looks like we're going to get a little bit of Stargirl versus Stripe action. Where do you think the finale picks up from here?
I think it picks up immediately. I think we have to start right where we are.
Yeah. Well, how do you think they resolve this particular?
So I started thinking about this idea when they were talking about the 25% that will fight back and die, and I was like, oh, Justin, the janitor, like he's already kind of, has a memory issue, has some mental issues going on.
Yeah.
He's going to be the one it's not going to latch on, and he's going to be able to fight it and not die, I think, and be able to help the team. That's what based on nothing, that is what I think should happen.
I like that too, because I actually really like what we've been doing with Justin, and I think it'd be a cool dynamic to see him in full Shining Knight mode, and it'd be a cool balance between, you got the young kids that have a character that's even older than Pat, part of the team as well. I talked a little bit about this with Sam on last week's episode. Are there any characters you'd like to see them introduce in season 2?
I don't know enough about the characters that we haven't yet met, but I feel like Grundy's been in a cage, and
he's got to come out for the finale.
And Cindy's in a let people out. Why? And also, somebody's got to find out that Miss Fiddler is dead now.
And I wonder if the response is like, whatever. She was just a principal. Like, everybody else served a purpose. She was just a principal, so I don't know what she really does to her whole thing.
Yeah, I assume they're not going to care.
Yeah, I think they're definitely setting up a Gen 2 ISA. And I wouldn't be surprised with the work we've done on this show's version of Artemis if one of the Croc parents, Tigress or Sportsmaster, dies. I would imagine it felt like a lot of Fiddler's aggression was directed at Tigress. I wouldn't be surprised if we lose Tigress this season as kind of setting up Artemis. And we have a new ISA next season with Shiv and Artemis and Fiddler 2.0. You know what I mean? Whatever the villain kids are.
Well, he plays the tuba though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he sure does. Is he gonna? Because she talked about using the fiddlestick, whatever it is, stabbing it in the bow, stabbing it in the kid's ear. It's like, is he just gonna bonk a kid over the head with the tuba?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm excited to see, because like you said, the action direction on the show has been really solid. So I think we're going to get a lot of great action moments. I think in the very first teaser of Stargirl, they had like all the ISA and all the JSA running at each other, Civil War style. So I'm excited to get that in the finale. I think all the action stuff will be really cool. I'm interested to see how they resolve it. And even if the villain's goals are somewhat dubious, I do think as we near the end, it's like overall, I think the acting on the show has been really solid. The directing on the show has been really solid. There's definitely been some ups and downs, but I do think, next season it's going full to CW. I think this is as a more than worthy addition to the CW superhero canon.
I agree. I think the CW is the perfect place for it.
Agreed.
My only fear is the CW tends to get really dramatic, and I don't need more teenage drama and relationship like boyfriend drama. I don't need more of it. It's got plenty. It has enough.
Yeah.
This is fine. I'm good with where we're at.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think, I hope they stick to the 13 episodes because I think that's allowed the season to be very tight, to the point where, I can't remember if I mentioned this on the last review or not, to the point where I kind of wish the rest of the CW shows would just do 13 episode seasons, and this like Flash is in the front half of the year, Supergirl's in the back half, Batwoman's in the back half, Superman and Lois is in the front, something like where it's you split it up a little bit, because it's like, wait, are you telling me all of our superhero shows could be this tight? Because it's not like, this isn't Doom Patrol where it's trying to rewrite what a superhero show can be. It's just doing the thing. But I think because it's allowed to be more focused, I think it's doing a really good job. And are you going to stick with it through season 2, depending on how the finale goes?
Yeah. Oh, regardless of how the finale goes, I am sticking with this for season 2. I will say though, because the other CW shows are not going to do short seasons, but I'd be okay with if they took the one positive from the like last half of Once Upon a Time is half season stories. So like just keep it compact and relevant to the half season story. Yeah.
I agree with that. And they've experimented with that sometimes, and I wish they would commit to it more. But again, it's hard crafting a 22, 24 episode season of TV and cracking all that stuff. So, and it's just inherently hard to come up with an antagonist that can fight a person that can run faster than the speed of light. Yeah, there's just challenges to that. So God bless them. Hopefully all these shows can get back to production safely and soon. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I am bummed that the 2-parter is split over 2 weeks. I like 2-parters. I like to watch a 2-parter together.
Put them back to back. I would agree with you, except that gives us an extra week of content. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I remember when Doom Patrol season 2 dropped, they dropped the first 3 episodes in 1 week, and you're like, what are you doing? There's only 9 episodes this season. What are you doing? So once again, I know you said at the top of the episode, where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at Yell Teagle. That's YAELTYGIEL. On Saturday, I just released a new show on that hashtag show called Streaming Wars, so check that out. Also talking Winona Earp, Mondays at noon. That's where you can find me.
Okay, so before we leave, if the one line pitch, how would you get people on board with Winona Earp? It's a sci-fi show, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Supernatural. More Western, lesbians.
There you go. Boom.
All you need.
That's all you need. So be sure to check out her talking about that. And thank you all. Be sure to tune in next week as we talk about the finale with another special guest. New podcast episodes are dropping every Monday. So stay tuned for those. And just tune in next week. Subscribe if you want to. Like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter, which is @OnlyStupidAnswers. Yank out the vowels from stupid. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.